The year was 2013, and the MTV Video Music Awards stage had never witnessed anything quite like it. A young woman with platinum blonde hair, barely clothed in flesh-colored latex, gyrated against a married man 20 years her senior, while millions watched in stunned silence. The performance lasted 4 minutes, but its reverberations would echo for years. This was Miley Cyrus, no longer the sweet 16-year-old who had captured America's heart as Hannah Montana. This was a woman desperately trying to shed her skin, to become someone else entirely. But who was she really? And what had driven the girl next door to such extremes? The story begins not with scandal, but with destiny wrapped in small-town dreams and big-city ambitions. On November 23, 1992, in Franklin, Tennessee, Destiny Hope Cyrus drew her first breath. Her parents, Billy Ray and Tish Cyrus, named her Destiny because they believed she was meant for something extraordinary. The irony wasn't lost on anyone when little Destiny earned the nickname Smiley for her perpetual grin, later shortened to Miley, the name that would become synonymous with both innocence and rebellion. Billy Ray Cyrus was already tasting the intoxicating nectar of fame when Miley was born. His hit Achy Breaky Heart had line-danced its way into the American consciousness, making him a household name with a distinctive mullet and cowboy swagger. But fame, as the Cyrus family would learn, was a double-edged sword. While it opened doors, it also cast long shadows over childhood, creating a hunger for attention that would shape Miley's entire existence. The Cyrus household buzzed with creative energy and underlying tension. Tish, a former actress and producer, understood the entertainment industry's demands. She watched her husband navigate the treacherous waters of celebrity while raising 5 children in a goldfish bowl. Billy Ray would later admit in interviews that his early success created fractures in their family dynamic. "I lost myself," he reflected years later, "and maybe I didn't give my kids the stability they needed." Meanwhile, Miley absorbed every moment, every lesson about performance, every understanding that love and attention were earned through entertainment. Music wasn't just background noise in the Cyrus home. It was the family language. Miley's first memories were colored by the sound of guitars, the smell of recording studios, and the electricity of live performances. At age 8, she was already performing alongside her father, her clear voice cutting through the Tennessee air like a promise of things to come. But it wasn't just music that called to her. It was the transformative power of becoming someone else entirely. The entertainment industry had its hooks in Miley before she could walk properly. At 13, she auditioned for a Disney Channel pilot called Hannah Montana, a show about a teenage girl living a double life as a pop star. Hundreds of girls tried out for the role, but Miley possessed something indefinable, a natural charisma that lit up the screen. However, Disney initially hesitated. She was too young, they said, too inexperienced. But Miley fought for that role with the determination of someone who understood that this was her moment, her chance to step out of her father's shadow and into her own spotlight. Hannah Montana premiered in March 2006, and almost overnight, Miley became the most famous teenager in America. The show's premise, a regular girl who transforms into a glamorous pop star, seemed to mirror Miley's own life. By day, she was Miley Stewart, the awkward high school student. By night, she was Hannah Montana, the blonde-wigged sensation who could command stadiums full of screaming fans. The line between fiction and reality began to blur almost immediately. Disney had created a monster, though they didn't know it yet. The Hannah Montana franchise generated over $2 billion in merchandise sales. Miley's concerts sold out in minutes. Her albums topped charts, and her face adorned lunchboxes across America. She was the wholesome role model parents wanted their daughters to emulate, complete with purity ring and carefully crafted public appearances. But behind the scenes, the pressure was suffocating. Former Disney executives would later admit that the company's approach to young stars was problematic. "We created these perfect images," one anonymous source revealed, "but we forgot they were still children dealing with normal teenage emotions and desires." Miley felt trapped in Hannah's blonde wig, forced to maintain an image that felt increasingly foreign to her evolving identity. She began to rebel in small ways, a edgier haircut here, a slightly more revealing outfit there, testing the boundaries of her golden cage. The first major crack in Miley's pristine image appeared in 2008, when photos surfaced of the 15-year-old in what some deemed provocative poses. The media firestorm was immediate and merciless. Parents felt betrayed, Disney executives panicked, and Miley learned her first harsh lesson about public scrutiny. She issued a tearful apology, but the damage was done. The perfect Hannah Montana facade had developed its first fault line. As Hannah Montana entered its final seasons, Miley's desperation to break free became increasingly apparent. She began working with edgier producers, experimenting with a more mature sound. Her relationship with actor Liam Hemsworth, whom she met on the set of The Last Song in 2009, provided both stability and additional media attention. Hemsworth, ruggedly handsome and refreshingly normal, seemed like the perfect partner for America's sweetheart. But their relationship would become another battleground in Miley's war between public expectation and private desire. Liam represented everything I thought I wanted, Miley would later reflect in an interview with Rolling Stone. He was stable, he was safe, and he fit the image everyone had of who I should be. But I was changing, and that scared everyone, including myself. Their on-again, off-again romance became tabloid fodder, with every breakup and reconciliation scrutinized by millions of fans who felt personally invested in their love story. The year 2010 marked a turning point. A video surfaced of Miley smoking what appeared to be salvia, a legal but psychoactive herb, from a bong at her 18th birthday party. The backlash was swift and brutal. Parents who had trusted Disney to provide a positive role model felt betrayed. Conservative groups called for boycotts. Disney quietly began distancing itself from its former golden child. For Miley, this was both devastating and liberating. The mask was slipping, and there was no putting it back on. Hannah Montana ended in 2011, and with it, an era of forced innocence. Miley stood at a crossroads, faced with a choice that would define the rest of her career. She could attempt to maintain her wholesome image, transition gracefully into mature roles like other former Disney stars, or she could burn it all down and rebuild herself from the ashes. She chose fire. The transformation began with her hair. In 2012, Miley shocked the world by chopping off her signature long locks, replacing them with a platinum blonde pixie cut that made her look like a different person entirely. "I feel more like myself than I ever have," she declared on Twitter, posting photos of her dramatic makeover. But this was just the beginning of her metamorphosis. Her music evolved rapidly, abandoning the pop-country crossover sound that had made her famous. Working with producers like Mike Will Made It, she embraced hip-hop influences, electronic beats, and provocative lyrics that would have made Hannah Montana blush. The girl who once sang about the best of both worlds was now exploring the darker corners of fame, sexuality, and identity. The lead-up to her 2013 album, Bangers, was a carefully orchestrated campaign of shock and awe. Each public appearance seemed designed to distance her further from her Disney past. She posed nude for magazine covers, made sexually explicit comments in interviews, and embraced a party lifestyle that played out in real time on social media. Critics accused her of attention-seeking behavior, but those closest to her understood this was something deeper. A young woman desperately trying to discover who she was when the cameras weren't rolling. Her father, Billy Ray, watched his daughter's transformation with a mixture of pride and concern. "I see someone who's fighting to be authentic," he told a journalist, "but I also see the pain that fighting causes. The industry doesn't make it easy to grow up." Tish Cyrus became her daughter's fiercest defender, arguing that Miley's evolution was natural and necessary. "She was never going to stay 17 forever," Tish declared. "People need to let her grow up." The 2013 MTV Video Music Awards performance became the defining moment of Miley's rebellion. Dancing with Robin Thicke to blurred lines, she gyrated, twerked, and used a foam finger in ways that sparked international headlines. The performance was criticized as vulgar, desperate, and inappropriate, but it achieved exactly what Miley intended. It made her impossible to ignore and definitively severed her connection to Hannah Montana. "I wanted people to talk," Miley later admitted. "I wanted to make it impossible for anyone to see me as that little girl ever again. Mission accomplished." The performance generated more buzz than any other moment in MTV history, cementing Miley's status as pop culture's most unpredictable force. But the personal cost was enormous. Her relationship with Liam Hemsworth, already strained by her dramatic changes, couldn't survive the pressure. They broke up in September 2013, just weeks after the VMA performance. Hemsworth, who had tried to support her transformation, finally admitted defeat. "I love Miley," he told friends, "but I don't know who she is anymore." Their split felt like the end of her last connection to her former life. The Bangers era represented both Miley's creative peak and her emotional nadir. The album showcased her vocal range and willingness to experiment, featuring collaborations with everyone from hip-hop producer Mike Will Made It to rock legend Joan Jett. Songs like Wrecking Ball revealed genuine vulnerability beneath the provocative exterior, while tracks like We Can't Stop became anthems of youthful rebellion. Yet behind the bravado, Miley was struggling. The constant scrutiny, the pressure to top her own shocking behavior, and the isolation that came with her controversial image took their toll. She began experimenting with harder substances, surrounded herself with enablers rather than genuine friends, and lost herself in a haze of parties and meaningless encounters. Those closest to her watched with growing concern as the girl who had once been America's sweetheart spiraled into increasingly erratic behavior. The media machine that had built Miley up now seemed intent on tearing her down. Every misstep was magnified, every controversy analyzed endlessly by talking heads who claimed to understand her motivations. She became a punchline, a cautionary tale, and a symbol of everything wrong with child stardom. The weight of constant judgment began crushing the very spirit she had fought so hard to free. Mental health struggles, which she would later openly discuss, compounded her difficulties during this period. The pressure of living up to her own outrageous image while dealing with anxiety and identity issues created a perfect storm of self-destructive behavior. Friends from this era later described a young woman who seemed to be running from something she could never quite escape: herself. The turning point came gradually, then all at once. A series of personal losses, including the deaths of beloved pets and the ending of several important relationships, forced Miley to confront the emptiness behind her rebellious facade. She began working with therapists, exploring meditation, and slowly rebuilding connections with family members who had been pushed away during her most chaotic period. Her 2015 album, Miley Cyrus, Her Dead Pets, marked a dramatic shift in both sound and substance. The experimental, psychedelic collection revealed an artist grappling with deeper questions about existence, mortality, and meaning. While commercially unsuccessful, the album represented genuine artistic growth and emotional healing. Reconciliation with Liam Hemsworth in 2016 surprised many who had written off their relationship as a casualty of Miley's wild period. But those close to the couple understood that both had grown during their time apart. Hemsworth had learned to accept Miley's need for creative expression, while she had discovered the value of stability and genuine connection. Their 2018 marriage felt like a new chapter, a chance for Miley to integrate all aspects of her identity into something sustainable. She embraced country music again with albums like Younger Now, reconnecting with her Tennessee roots while maintaining the artistic freedom she had fought so hard to achieve. The woman who had once seemed determined to destroy everything wholesome about her image now spoke eloquently about love, growth, and the importance of authenticity. But even this chapter would prove temporary. Her marriage to Hemsworth ended in 2019, followed by brief but intense relationships with women, including Caitlyn Carter and eventually musician Cody Simpson. Each relationship taught her something new about love, identity, and the complexity of human connection. She began speaking openly about her sexuality, identifying as pansexual and using her platform to advocate for LGBTQ+ rights. The girl who had once been trapped by others' expectations now seemed determined to define herself on her own terms, regardless of public opinion. Her music evolved to reflect this newfound freedom, incorporating rock, country, pop, and hip-hop influences as the mood struck her. Albums like Plastic Hearts showcased a mature artist comfortable with contradiction and complexity. Personal tragedies continued to shape her journey. The loss of her Malibu home in the 2018 Woolsey fire, which also claimed the house she had shared with Hemsworth, became a metaphor for rebirth and renewal. From the ashes of her old life, she created new music that spoke to resilience, loss, and the beauty of starting over. Her relationship with her father evolved as well, moving from childhood hero worship through teenage rebellion to adult understanding. Billy Ray, who had initially struggled with his daughter's transformation, came to appreciate her artistic courage and personal growth. "She's taught me as much as I ever taught her," he reflected in a recent interview. Maybe more. Today, Miley Cyrus stands as something unprecedented in entertainment, a former child star who survived the transition to adulthood with her sanity, creativity, and authenticity intact. She judges The Voice, mentors young artists, and continues creating music that defies easy categorization. The woman who once swung naked on a wrecking ball now speaks thoughtfully about mental health, sobriety, and the importance of staying true to oneself. Her journey from Destiny Hope to Hannah Montana to Miley Cyrus represents more than just a celebrity transformation. It's a masterclass in self-determination, artistic evolution, and the courage required to grow up in public. She faced every challenge that destroys young stars: impossible expectations, media scrutiny, family pressure, romantic heartbreak, substance abuse, and the suffocating weight of fame. Yet she emerged not just intact, but stronger, more creative, and more genuinely herself than ever before. The scandals that once defined her now seem like necessary growing pains, steps on a journey toward wholeness that couldn't be avoided or shortcut. Her willingness to be vulnerable, to make mistakes publicly, and to own her evolution completely has inspired countless fans who see their own struggles reflected in her story. Critics who once dismissed her as a attention-seeking former Disney star now recognize her as a serious artist with impressive vocal range, songwriting skills, and an instinct for cultural moments. Her ability to reinvent herself while maintaining core elements of her identity has become a template for artistic longevity in an industry that typically discards yesterday's stars. Perhaps, most remarkably, Miley has managed to maintain relationships with family members, former colleagues, and even ex-partners who respected her journey even when they couldn't travel it with her. This speaks to something essential about her character. Beneath all the controversy and change, she remained fundamentally kind, loyal, and loving. As the sun sets over the hills of Malibu, where Miley has rebuilt her life once again, her story continues to unfold. The girl who was named Destiny has indeed fulfilled her purpose, though not in ways anyone could have predicted. She destroyed the limiting expectations placed upon her and constructed something entirely new from the pieces. A life lived on her own terms, with all the messiness, beauty, and authenticity that entails. The music plays on, the cameras keep rolling, and Miley Cyrus keeps evolving. She has learned the secret that eludes so many stars. The only way to truly be free is to be fearlessly, completely yourself, regardless of who that frightens or disappoints. In a world of manufactured personas and calculated images, she remains defiantly, chaotically, beautifully real. Her wrecking ball didn't just tear down walls, it cleared space for something better, something true, something that could only exist because she had the courage to destroy what came before. The little girl with the permanent smile had grown into a woman comfortable with complexity, and that transformation, messy as it was, had always been her true destiny.